Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I hope you guys are doing wonderfully well. We are about to kick off a set of Euro previews, diving nice and deep on some of the front runners for Euro 2020. We'll be looking at Germany, Spain, France, Portugal, but we're going to kick off with possibly the surprise package of the tournament. A dark horse, in fact. Before I get into the video, do me a favour. If you do enjoy this video by the end of it, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button because it will help these previews do really, really well. Of course, hit the notification bell as well if you want to be contacted when I go live or when I drop a video or drop one of these other previews. We're going to kick off with a resurgent Italy side that has made some very cute decisions since 2018 that has made them a real force to be reckoned with. And in fact, actually, the fact that the tournament didn't take place last season has allowed this philosophy that Roberto Mancini has put together to garner just that little bit more and put this team back on the map after a very difficult 10 or so years in international football. So let's get started, and where better to start than with Roberto Mancini, who became the manager in 2018 and has done fantastically well. Now, Roberto Mancini's got a funny reputation when it comes to management, certainly from English fans or Premier League fans, because although he did well with Man City and won trophies with them, he certainly wasn't known as a manager who was forward-thinking and was someone who's going to blood young players and give them an opportunity, which is exactly what he's done here. Back in 2018, when he took the job, of course, Italy had just failed to qualify for the Russian World Cup. And in the previous two World Cups prior to that, 2010 and 2014, they hadn't even made it out of the group. You had the likes of Buffon retiring, Chiellini retiring. Of course, Chiellini came back as well. But it was a team in transition. So what was Mancini to do? He deserves enormous credit for this. He went really big on youth players. That was his method from the start, to understand that let's look towards Euro 2020 or 21 as it's now become. I'm just going to say Euro 2020 from now on. And to blood young Italian players, to give them an opportunity and to move away from what's known when it comes to Italian football as often very an aging kind of country, an aging league. Those top teams have so much experience, but he needed to start again. In fact, Mancini has given debuts to 33 players, and a lot of those players, those debutants, have now become key players in this young, exciting squad. In 2018, the likes of Moise Kean and Nico Barella have gone on to play lots of times, and Moise Kean getting his debut at 18, Barella at 21. In 2019, Mancini, no relation, Tonali getting his first games for Italy, Zaniolo and Orsolini getting their first games for Italy, and Locatelli in 2020 making his debut as well. All players under 23. So this new era of players have come in and had that opportunity to sort of build together, much like you've seen with England. In terms of the recent results and form, it's been really good. And that's what I mean when I say that they're starting to build this momentum. Because if you go back to Italy's last competitive defeat, it was actually September 2018, a defeat to Portugal in the Nations League. And since then, Italy, they've sort of gathered this real momentum in the competitive games that previously they weren't winning when they should be winning. They're winning the games that they should be winning now. And that is down to the fact that there's just a bit more freedom. It's a bit more energised. Ventura, the previous manager, who the players simply didn't like, was a manager who was incredibly pragmatic in his approach. And that sort of stagnated and stunted the Italian side and how they wanted to play, because they do have some really fantastic technical players, as showcased in that playoff where they didn't reach the World Cup. They needed to win that game, and instead of bringing on Insigne, a really exciting winger who we're going to talk about a little bit later on, Daniel De Rossi came on, and Daniel De Rossi himself during the game was going, why am I coming on the pitch? So the mismanagement and the lack of trust towards young players has cost him his job. So how exactly have they turned this around? Well, what Mancini has done here is he's given it a very clear idea on how they want to play, which has created good performances and brought in results, but has also allowed them to breed young players and give them the opportunity and the experience to feel comfortable in the Italian shirt. They've consistently played in a 4-3-3 formation under Mancini. They seem to know exactly what is expected of them in each position and in regarding their role. And also the uncanny thing, actually, for this Italian squad is the amount of players that fit this exact system. So you're able to take out one player, bring in another player and have the same skill set. That might feel like it's slightly inflexible, but for a team just starting out with so many young players, the ability to have a like-for-like replacement means that all the other parts can retain that kind of chemistry and passing patterns and allow the team to thrive. Italy under Mancini have a very unique midfield setup where they utilise the mezzala role. Now the mezzala role is taken from the two Italian words mezza and ala, which means half winger. And the mezzala role is essentially a role for both a wider central midfielders to kind of work the channels in the half spaces. And it's something that you see very rarely in international football because of the amount of coaching time that would be needed to implement it, the time that you would need with the players. But Mancini, with that long-term vision, has been able to do that. This role allows for width whilst attacking, and it's very beneficial because you have inverted wingers with Italy as well whilst they attack, which allows them to kind of, the whole team to have a lot of freedom, but also to kind of get the best out of the players that you have in those positions. Generally, that's Nico Barella and Verratti, but both have very different skill sets despite being technically very, very good. Nico Barella is going to be a huge part of any kind of success that Italy will have in this tournament because he's arguably one of the best players in terms of being suited for the mezzala role. And it's evident in the fact that he's played 21 times for Italy under Mancini since he arrived in 2018. He's a player who's renowned for ball control ability, passing range, and a great work rate as well in defence. But he can also score a goal, and that's been seen in his time with the Azzurri. Barella played a pivotal part in the Euro 2020 qualifying, and he was relentless, to be honest, because in terms of goals, Barella scored 4 goals for Italy, but he scored 2 goals in 7 appearances during the Euro qualifying campaign. Including headers, it was a 27% conversion rate, but just with shots, it was a 40% conversion rate for Barella, which is pretty exceptional for international football as well. 1.8 key passes per game, whilst averaging 2.8 tackles per 90, which just shows that although he has that bit more freedom to get forward and get himself into the box, as usual, his work rate is still incredibly high. This heat map demonstrates Barella's role in an Italian shirt. And what's great about this, and what's great about what Mancini has done with these players, is that he's bringing them in and asking them to play a very similar role that they play for their team in Serie A or whatever league that they're playing in. And you can see that from his heat map in Serie A this season. A very similar role in 34 appearances in the Serie A for Inter, for the champions, of course, Inter. So he's had a great season there, and he's been able to pick him up, put him into this Italy squad, and play a very similar role for the team. The other key role in that midfield is that deep-lying 6 role. And again, Italy, it's like they've almost cherry-picked player after player after player. Now, that deep 6 role is almost becoming the culture for Italy. And it's something, obviously, with Pirlo, it's probably inspired the generation after. And you can see that in the depth that they have in that role. You've got Locatelli, who's had some great games for Italy. 75.3 touches per 90 just highlights how comfortable he is on the ball and how important that 6 role is for Italy in this tournament. Sandro Tonali is a player who can also play in that role, although despite having that big move from Brescia to AC Milan at 19 and playing for AC Milan, his form has dropped off, and I think maybe it's not this tournament that he will make his impact, but he definitely has a bright future ahead. But Stefano Sensi is a player who looks like he will be involved, and again, it's another player who can play in the exact same role. Yes, different skill sets, but players who are comfortable on the ball, and you see that throughout the squad. If you look at the mezzala role, you've got Lorenzo Pellegrini who can come in and play in that role. Further up the pitch in the inverted winger role, you've got the likes of Chiesa and Bernardeschi who both want to play on that right-hand side and then cut in onto their left. And then even up front, in Belotti and Immobile, you've got 2 players who are just like players you can punt the ball up to if you want to, but they've also got a great finish on them as well. Young players with potential are great, but they are exactly that, just potential. And so some of the big hitters for Italy are going to be crucial in bringing out the best of them. Those 3 for me are Lorenzo Insigne, Marco Verratti and Ciro Immobile. Let's kick off with Insigne, who is no doubt in his prime and at the sort of peak of his powers at the moment. And he's a player who lives and breathes for that role that he plays for his country and for Napoli as well, that inverted winger role. This season, he has scored 17 goals from 28.8 90s in the league. That's a great start to kick off with. But then when you look at the fact that he's offered up 8 assists in that time, highlights just how much goal involvements he's been a part of, how integral he is. And then when you look a little bit deeper from there, 60% dribble success, accompanied with 9.55 progressive carries per 90. He is so important. And the irony is that with Serie A, I think people look at these players, and although they are, the best players in that league, people don't believe that will translate onto the international stage or put them in that arena with the biggest top players in the world. With Insigne in these numbers, especially 9.55 progressive carries per 90, he is hugely underestimated and will be hugely integral to the attacking side of this Italy side. Marco Verratti, who is the ultimate eye test player, because when you look at the stats, a lot of them, in terms of goals and assists, yes, they're not there for him, but he's such a great progressive passer, always has been and continues to get better, playing in a more advanced role these days. He's not going to be that number 6 for Italy. He's going to be that box-to-box player. And although the goals might not come, the creativity certainly does, as does the progressive passes. 10.2 passes into the final third per 90. 10. Which is pretty impressive. And I think the stat that does highlight just how wonderful he is on the ball and how technical, he's another sort of technical cog in a technical wheel, if that makes any sense, is that he has an amazing 99.6 accurate passes per game. So 99.6 completed passes per game. So for a player that's not sitting deep or a centre-back, for him to be doing that higher up the pitch when he's surrounded by players highlights his brilliant awareness and his brilliant vision. Up top, Ciro Immobile is going to be absolutely crucial to Italy. He is often just seen as just a goal scorer. And for those who have just seen the stats of him, they might kind of think that. And I understand that, 19 goals in Serie A will suggest that. But actually, he's the Italian Benzema. He's got a lot more about him than just that. 6'1", he's got a great turn of pace as well. Yes, of course, the finishing is fantastic. But he's also offering up 1.75 key passes per 90 in the league, which demonstrates that he is getting involved. And for a team that's going to be this technical, you would want him to be a part of that as much as just spinning in behind and trying to get on the end of things. He needs to be a part of the build-up play as well. Another stat that demonstrates this is the fact that he gets 3.77 shot-creating actions per 90, which is excellent. The only area where he struggles as a player is maybe his aerial duels. For a 6'1" player, he's only winning 37% of his aerial duels, which I guess might lead us down the road of where we would expect Italy to play, regardless of who is playing up top. So don't expect too many crosses with Italy, but expect really interesting technical play and expect Immobile to have the tournament of his career. So to summarise, this Italy team, it's unknown to many on the international level. And I think that is both a kind of a strength and a weakness. The weaknesses are, of course, that there's a lack of international experience there. But the individuals are pretty good. That first 11 is pretty strong. Have they got the depth overall when you look at the other teams that we're going to be looking at during this series of previews? Maybe not. But if they can entertain in that Group A, a group where they should be making their way through against the likes of Switzerland, Turkey, and Wales, if they can entertain along the way, then they will continue with this momentum. They are trending in the right direction. I like the kind of rhythm that they have, the consistency that they have, and of course the hunger that they will have with these young players in this squad. I'm really excited to see what they can do in this tournament. And yeah, that kind of exuberance of youth in this team is something that I think we're all going to really, really enjoy. So there you have it, all you need to know about this Italy national team. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Who's going to be the key player for Italy and how far can they go in the tournament? If you've enjoyed this video, there's more previews on the way, so please do consider subscribing. And if you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button as well. I'll see you next time.